Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner. Today we're going to go through the FA Cup because there's a lot of matches on Friday and it's super late night with the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter. Thank you for all of you who are joining live on Twitter. I appreciate that. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. I'm going to go through the many different days of the FA Cup that are pretty much taking over this weekend in England. And then I'll try to find some time between a flight tomorrow, wedding prep, and things like that for a good friend of mine at Big East Ben, who you will also see us do I think, in-person live recording, I guess that's kind of funny, of the Need for Seeds College Basketball Podcast. All of you who are supporting me on pregame, I, of course, appreciate that. It's a little bit different than the more to the point nature of what AJ Hoffman and I do for that website, but or that podcast network. But stay tuned for that. That should be recorded sometime on Friday afternoon, live from Denver, Colorado. As I'm trying to pronounce every state the way that they pronounce it themselves. Okay, so we're going to do an FA Cup each day of this round. Some games I'll have more to say than others. Plus, we'll also do a best bet from each of the days and make an ultimate best bet at the end of the show. So stick around for that. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com. So that's real underscore G Warner, the best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything across all sports in one place. And if you even download the application, you get notifications for every time that I lock something in, so you make sure you get the best price. So we're going to start on, I guess I already missed, there was a Thursday match, my bad. And as always, if anybody sees that, please slide in my DMs, the real underscore G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, or Twitter, and let me know that I'm missing a game because I'm trying to do all of them. And I swear there's so many that sneak up on me and it really makes me very, very angry. But we're going to let that go and we're going to pull up the FA Cup lines courtesy of Bet Online. If you're not a member there yet, there's a 50% sign up link. You get a 50% bonus for your first time deposit. Go check that out. It will be in the podcast description. If you're watching live on Twitter, I don't have that. I don't have a way to put that up there, I don't think. But check it out on YouTube, Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts. So we'll start on Friday. We have, it looks like they're all in the same window, the 2:45 Eastern time in the United States. We'll start with Bristol City hosting Nottingham Forest. Bristol City, who had just knocked out West Ham, if I remember correctly, thanks to West Ham being extremely banged up. But it was an FA Cup replay, so they, I guess, drew the first round or first meeting, and then got a home game and took an early lead off a bad mistake and held on to it. So Bristol City are currently a quarter goal underdog at home to Nottingham Forest. Over under is 2.25, just a little bit to over, a little more juice on Bristol City, the home underdog. So what to say about this one, I guess. Nottingham Forest, they're a very defensive side. They switched managers to get one of the more defensive managers that I've seen since I've been following the English Premier League, and Nuno Espirito Santo. They have a ton of issues with financial fair play and things like that. They might be subject to a similar 10-point penalty like Everton have, but every FA Cup match they win and every round they get further, I think they get more money. So that's probably pretty important to them. With that said, they haven't played in a little while, so it probably is a good reason. They did play Brentford last weekend, and they allowed a really unfair, cheating, you could even say, type of goal from Ivan Toney. But I guess it's better at progress if you're not betting on the sport, just cheating, moving the foam that the referee puts down. Nottingham Forest were probably pretty sore from that because it did cost them at least a point as they lost by a single goal. Now they go on the road to Bristol City, and Bristol City, based on, I imagine they'll play the same way, especially after having success against West Ham. And that was, they scored a goal and then they defended as much as they could. Now, West Ham in that match were so depleted of resources, players at AFCON, at Asia Cup, or whatever international competitions are going on right now. Plus, they had so many injuries that they were starting fullbacks, like defensive players, as their wing players. Of course, everyone in the Premier League is pretty advanced and talented in various ways, but I think that was pretty fortunate for Bristol City. With that said, I'm a little bit less interested in them as a home underdog. They are facing the might and really the spending power of a Greek billionaire who I think owns Olympiacos as well in Athens and Piraeus. But my biggest interest here is in the under 2.25. I just don't really believe that Nottingham Forest have much of an offense. Chris Wood is really not enough for me to really. I mean, he'd be scary in a fight, the New Zealander, but I don't think we'll be fighting anytime soon. And I don't really trust them to score a ton of goals, Nottingham Forest, that is. I think cup matches play tight, and I would expect this one to be no different. So I'm interested in Bristol City. I guess I like the side a little bit as a home underdog, of course. And there's a reason why Premier League teams go out early, but I think I'm more interested and honestly feel like a little bit Bristol City is kind of overvalued based on that upset and eliminating West Ham in the last round. But they did go on the road and get a draw, so that would have been a cover certainly on the road in the first leg before the replay, however I'm supposed to call that. But lean under there, under 2.25. Next, we'll go to Chelsea hosting Aston Villa. Chelsea coming off their dominant victory, which they needed in the second leg of the Carabao EFL Cup. They faced a team that refused to play long balls, and Middlesbrough tried their best to pass the ball into their own net, was essentially what they were doing. Now Chelsea get a real team, Aston Villa at home, where they play certainly a lot better. And I've been listening to podcasts that are saying that Chelsea are just really close to being fully functioning European type of team, and then maybe look at their own financial fair play type of issues. I'm not a believer in that. They have plenty to prove. Yes, they've spent a ton of money, but I'm very unimpressed with who Chelsea are. Chelsea are currently a half a goal favorite to Aston Villa, with all the juice on Aston Villa right now on the road. Over under is 2.75, juice a little bit, slightly to over. And I'm interested in the road underdog and the under. Surprise, surprise. If anyone's listening to my soccer podcast or any betting the pitch stuff, you'll know I like underdogs. But especially in this sport, as I don't really play favorites, maybe pick'ems, that's about it. But Chelsea are going to do their best to win this matchup. Of course, I don't know if they're replays, but it doesn't really matter so much because I think everyone is going to accept the draw late rather than push for that goal because they don't want to have a replay. I don't think things are that drastic in this world anymore. But Aston Villa currently half a goal underdog. They've been certainly their road splits have been pretty weak. They've been pretty bad compared to what they play like at home. They are very different on the road. And they do like to play a high line, which if what we've pretty much found from Chelsea is that they're really, really bad at breaking down low blocks. They don't finish very well. Yes, they're getting healthier and getting deeper and things of that nature, but they don't really have a quality striker. Christopher Nkunku is a great player, but I think he's really a winger anyway. So I just don't really think Chelsea have any solutions in their to their goal scoring problems in that roster or in that lineup currently. What they need is to create turnovers like they did from Middlesbrough, and I would imagine Aston Villa are probably pretty aware of that. I don't know that Villa's, when they concede goals, I don't know if it's generally that they're making bad defensive mistakes. It's usually alignment. I don't think it's really turnovers, but you can certainly say that Diego Carlos is certainly not the passing type of central defender that you'd want. And I mean, Martinez, though, is probably going to start this match. I mean, I guess there could be rotation. That is one risk of doing FA Cup matches and talking about them all days or even a weekend ahead of time, because who knows what the lineups will look like. And the lines do move fast in cup games because really no one has any idea what the lineups are going to look like. And you'll see some big movement based on assumptions from lineups that then end up changing. So who knows what's going to happen? Really, it's just until, like most soccer matches, until an hour before a match, you don't really know what's going to happen until a confirmed lineup is out there. But I'm just going to assume strong lineups for all these teams, and I would think Aston Villa have a good chance to keep this close. So I'm interested in the half of a goal. I would love to have more than that. The juice certainly doesn't look like it's going to go any higher to like the 3/4 or something like that. I think at a quarter, I'm probably going to defer to home field advantage and not really want to be too involved with Aston Villa, but I do want to see lineups and see how that all looks. And I lean to under 2 3/4 because Chelsea's a pretty big favorite at home, and I don't trust the favorite to score goals. Next, we move to Sheffield Wednesday, hosting Coventry. Currently, Sheffield Wednesday, a quarter goal underdog at home with slightly more juice on Coventry, a near Premier League club if they had won the playoff final last year. Sorry, Dara, one of my good friends, who was we were talking about potentially going over there for that match, but then ticket prices were absolutely obscene, and that was not even considering getting there. Total is 2.5 in this one, juiced a little bit to over. Now, Coventry sold off their best players, one to Sporting Lisboa, one Gustavo Hammer to Sheffield United, I believe, who had a really thank you for the penalty you gave up in the second half last weekend against West Ham. That was brutal for my underplay and also the side, but fortunately that one ended up turning into a winner late. I don't really have a great insight into Coventry. I know they were kind of a surprise to make the playoff and make the playoff final last year. Sheffield Wednesday are a little bit beyond my purview, though. They're not really on my list. I think they're in a lower tier. Last but not least, on Friday, we have Tottenham Hotspur hosting Manchester City. Pretty big one, if I don't say so myself. Tottenham currently a 3/4 goal underdog at home. More juice on Man City on the road. Over under is 3.25. Just a little bit to over. Now, this one was as high as +1. I'm anticipating that we might get back there. Tottenham is a one goal underdog at home. Does very much interest me. I'm not really sure what lineups will look like, but as I said earlier, I'm going with the assumption that all these teams are playing their best that they have. Man City are very deep, but also we've seen some limitations to their depth this year. Tottenham have been playing their style no matter who is in that lineup, and I mean, they don't have Heung-min Son, who's probably going to be in the finals. It really depends on when Japan and South Korea face each other in the Asian Cup, or at least that was the assumption going in. The rest of that conference Asia Cup tournament seems very, very weak. The discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots are unreal. But Tottenham, they missed Kulusevski, who was sick, I think, in his first game back after suspension against Manchester United, but they ended up coming from behind and finding a 2-2 draw on the road at Old Trafford. I feel like that sort of thing might happen again. I just at this point feel like Man City are still I mean with I think they might even be a better team without Erling Haaland because they're a little bit less predictable. But without him in there to score goals, I think you still have to question how Man City will score a bunch. And I found that every time I lay off my leans and big interest of betting against Man City, I always hate myself because I'm essentially then rooting. I basically hate rooting for Man City, hoping that they blast my lean out of the water. I just haven't really felt that afraid of the Man City offense for a while now. Tottenham will certainly give up chances, but they're used to that. And I think Tottenham can get on the scoreboard. Man City's defense has not been as strong. So I'm interested in that 3/4. We don't have it yet. I feel like there's going to be a lot of chances. So under 3.25 feels like a very scary under bet. But I guess above 3, I'm generally leaning to lower scoring matches, and especially I think in tight cup matches. So for Friday in the FA Cup, I got to pick a best bet here. I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with that Bristol City hosting Nottingham Forest. I'm gonna go under a quarter or under 2.25 in that one as my best bet for Friday. Stay tuned. I'll come up with an ultimate best bet end of show, chop it up, put it on YouTube, my YouTube channel, which I think is linked, and then also on the real_G Warner on Instagram, in case you'd rather do these in 1 minute. If you'd rather digest these in 1 minute as opposed to 40, then I certainly understand. Thank you. It's pretty late. Thank you for everyone that's still tuning in. So moving to Saturday, the 27th of January, we have an early and full match day, it seems, at least early here in the United States. Ipswich hosts Maidstone United. Ipswich is currently a 2.75 goal favorite with almost all the juice on the road team. Over under is 4, just a little bit to over. I don't have much more to say that than apparently Maidstone United must not be a real team. Leicester City then hosts Birmingham. Currently Leicester a 1.25 goal favorite, a little bit more juice on the road team. Tom Brady's ownership group, I believe. Over under is 3 and a little juice to under. Now Leicester are one of the favorites to come back into the Premier League after a surprise relegation. I don't know that I want to necessarily play against them because I mean every round you go in the FA Cup, I assume there's more money in it. So besides winning the competition, which probably as a former championship or former Premier League club now in the championship getting their parachute payments to kind of make the fall to the championship a little bit easier on the club. They're probably in really great shape, and I don't have a lot of insight into Birmingham. Next, we go to Everton hosting Luton Town. Currently, Everton a 1 goal favorite with a little bit more juice. Over under is 2.5. Choose very heavily to over. Maybe this climbs to 2.75. Luton Town, I mean, both these teams are trying to stay in the league. Everton would be probably pretty fine if they didn't have a 10-point deduction, but they do. Really curious to see what lineups look like if Pickford gets a day off. Everton had to play the replay, as did Luton Town. Luton ended up winning their replay. Everton had obviously winning to get here, but they had to play Crystal Palace twice. Pretty big price for Everton. I'm not really sure we've seen them play this well for a while, so I'm not really that interested. I do like getting a full goal of insurance in a cup match. Which generally, as I've said already, plays tight. So I'm interested in that +1. I also like 2.75, the total if it gets there to go under. We got a 2.5 right now, which to me isn't that different, especially getting odds. Move next to Leeds hosting Plymouth. Leeds currently a 1.5 goal favorite. They're another one of those Premier League relegations from last year that are receiving parachute payments, and things are probably pretty good for them financially considering. Over under here is 3.25, just a little bit to under. I don't really have much to say about Plymouth, so I'll move next to Sheffield United hosting Brighton. Another all Premier League matchup. Sheffield United, a 1-goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.75, just a little bit more over. Now, Brighton are a team I'm betting against. I don't trust their offense, haven't really a lot this season. They've not handled multiple competitions. And De Zerbi, their manager, has talked about how they have to play the kids to try to up their values and sell them to keep their franchise model going the way it is. That's not great because it's basically admitting you're not playing your best. And I think we've seen that so far. Now, Sheffield United have not looked great, but they have been very good at preventing goals. Coming off an over in their last Premier League match on the weekend against West Ham United, I would expect a better effort defensively and against a Brighton side that really like to get the ball wide with their wide players. Mitoma is playing for Japan, and Estupiñán's been pretty banged up and is working his way back into fitness. So there's missing a lot of important players for them. So I'd like under, and I like the home underdog as well. And last but not least, Fulham hosts Newcastle. Currently, Fulham a quarter goal underdog coming off their Carabao Cup second leg of their semi-final at home against Liverpool. Like another home game, and they get to host Newcastle. Potentially, there's some tired legs there because they went all out for trying to make the final to Wembley. Newcastle haven't played it in a long time, it feels like, which rest versus rust is an argument, but I think Newcastle would take all the rest they could and would deal with the rust because they've been so banged up trying to stretch themselves between multiple competitions. With that said, I think Newcastle have to prove that they can win away. So I'm very interested in Fulham getting a quarter of a goal at home. Very, of course, interested in what that lineup looks like. And I feel like the total, I like under 2.75 because I don't believe in the Newcastle as a road favorite. I don't believe in their offense. Their defense has been pretty bad, but I think it will be in a good situation against a Fulham side that should be pretty weary if they're playing their best players or they're potentially rotating with eyes on the Premier League. And then that's even a better situation for Newcastle and might make their road favoritism a little bit more sensible. I think there's too much to like in the Sheffield United match, though, for me to say anything more. So or to even consider playing anything with that Fulham game as my best bet. So I'm going to go with that Sheffield United under 2.75 is my best bet for Saturday, the 27th of January. We move to Sunday, and there is a Monday match. I can't say that it probably will make my card for the ultimate best bet, though. So stick around. Appreciate it if you haven't been there. I mentioned Bet Online. It's where I'm quoting these numbers from. Also, there's a sister site with a promo code in the podcast description, which you'll see on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. There's a 100% match up to $500 for a first-time depositor at SportsBetting.ag. I highly recommend doing that. I took advantage of it myself. It's great to get free money from Casino and use it against them. We'll start on Sunday in a very early time window with West Bromwich Albion hosting Wolves in what I think is a big Midlands derby, if I'm not mistaken. West Brom currently a half a goal underdog at home, and the total is 2.5. Now, Wolves have been awesome lately, but they haven't really been scoring a ton of goals, or they're just not a team that you'd expect to score a ton. It was important for them to get Craig Dawson back from injury, and they played a really great match, silencing Brighton and missing a lot of opportunities. I think we can expect them to do that more. Cunha especially is not the most efficient finisher, and Wolves, the road favorite, seems to be a pretty sizable number. Their play certainly deserved it. And West Brom are not exactly, they're not a Premier League side, of course. But this seems like the derby matches are definitely spots where Premier League teams are under major threat. I mean, I think every team in this competition is. But I like West Brom getting that half of a goal at home, and I like under 2.5 because the road favorite is another offense I don't really trust. Watford then hosts Southampton, the last of the recently relegated Premier League teams that are getting the big parachute payments. Watford currently a half a goal underdog at home, relegated a few seasons ago. They're very juiced getting that half of a goal. Over under is 2.75, juiced all the way to over. I don't really have a lot. I haven't been following the championship much, so it's hard for me to say, but it does feel very respectful to see Southampton giving these type of numbers. Next, go to Liverpool hosting Norwich City. Currently Liverpool a 2.25 goal favorite with almost all the juice. Over under is 3.75, juiced all the way to over. I don't know what to say from Norwich City, but they seem to be playing a very open brand of football from what I've been following so far. That's very scary going to Anfield, and especially facing Liverpool. They do have that advantage of the Carabao Cup semi-final, second leg being just played this week, but Liverpool went into it with a lead, and they have they're very used to playing multiple matches in few days. So I think this is going to be a really tough matchup for me to get involved in. I probably will not. Last but not least, on Sunday, we have Newport County hosting Manchester United. Currently, Newport County, a 2 3/4 goal underdog at home with more juice on the Manchester United side. So we might see 3. Over under is 4, juice all the way to under. And I'm forever going to lean against Manchester United scoring goals. I don't know if that's a really great idea with a club like Newport County that I don't really know much about. But the push on 4 is pretty interesting to me. So that makes me want to lean that away. I don't know if I'm gonna tempt fate and try to play that on Saturday because I'll probably have a million college basketball bets. As I mentioned, make sure you check out the Need for Seeds podcast that I'm gonna record with Biggie Spen tomorrow, the day before his wedding. Also the pregame.com RJ Bellstream preview college basketball edition podcast, which just came out probably tonight, Friday the 26th of January with AJ Hoffman via pregame's website, but I'll try to remember to retweet that at some point. With that said, let's move to Monday, and then I'll give you an ultimate best bet summarize and get the heck out of here because I have to pack for this wedding as everything falls off my little table. So we'll start. I guess there's only one match Monday, and is the darlings of the American television networks. I guess probably it might even be a global thing. But Blackburn Rovers are hosting Wrexham. Currently, Blackburn a 3/4 goal favorite with almost all the juice over 3 1/4. She's very heavily to under. Blackburn Rovers, pretty big favorite for everyone's heartthrob, but I feel like Wrexham will never be cheaply priced. And so it probably means if there's anything I want to play here, it's under 3 1/4, but I don't know much about these clubs. So probably wasn't worth even going through Monday, but I promised I would. So no real best bet or ultimate side for that one. Well, I guess I probably should do it since I said I would. So I'll put under 3 1/4 on my list because I'm addicted to 3 1/4 type of prices. Anything above 3, I automatically lean under on everything pretty much, but especially when it's above 3, I think 2-1 and 3-0 are very top end of the range for goal scoring type of events in a lot of these a lot of times in this sport. So before I get to the ultimate best bet, thank you all for tuning in, especially late night. Maybe I get better people tuning in at those times rather than early mornings or mornings because people have jobs. I guess people do stay up late in this world. But yeah, if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com. So that's real and assured you Warner. If you could leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, that'd be huge. You get us up the search rankings. Let's see if we got anything new. I've been meaning to try to read those out as I get new ones. But Jevem34 as looks like the last one we got. Thank you for that. 5-star reviews are huge. I'm sure they would be helpful on Spotify as well. And the more of those we get, the more podcasts I'll record. We do have an NFL conference championships weekend podcast out, recorded Tuesday night with Andrew Schnicker. We are 10-4 our last 14 best bets. So go check that out. He's 6-1 last 7. He's been rocking it. And then probably stay tuned for if you go subscribe or follow the real_G Warner on Instagram, you will get the best bet portions from both this show, the Need for Seeds, and also from the NFL podcast, all on that feed. So if you'd rather consume this content in 1-minute increments with a little bit more of different video and then rather staring at my beautiful face, fresh haircut today, thank you very much. But if you want to do it quicker, go check out the real_G Warner on Instagram. Already mentioned Patreon, but check that out. Best spot to get everything I'm playing right up to the minute. Thank you for the supporters on pregame as well. It was a $1 handicapper today, and I think I got 269 nice purchases. So thank you for the support there. And I think I've run out of things to talk about. So let's get into the ultimate best bet. Hey, this is the real_G Warner. This is Betting the Pitch, and this is the FA Cup edition from January 26th here in Dallas, Texas. On this day, Friday, my best bet is the Bristol City under 2 1/4 goals. On Saturday, the 27th, I like Sheffield United under 2 3/4. On the 28th of January, I like West Bromwich Albion under 2.5 goals. And on the 29th, I like Wrexham under 3 1/4. So a lot of unders, not a lot of expectation for goal scoring. I think that's something you'll see with cup competitions across all of the top 5 European soccer leagues that I cover. Plus, I think it's a big deal in the FA Cup with you never really know what lineups are going to look like. But I got to pick one for the ultimate best bet. So I'm going to go with that West Brom under 2.5 goals. It's a big rivalry, big derby in the Midlands between Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're visiting West Bromwich Albion, lower level, lower league. Good chance potentially to believe a little bit more in their scoring ability, and this line, I think, in total suggests it. So play under 2.5 in West Brom Albion hosting Wolverhampton on this Sunday. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you all very soon with more and more podcasts, more content coming out. Thanks for the support, and I'll talk to you all soon.